Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Erickson. As you can see, I'm the Vice President of Finance and Business Development for Community Green Energy. We are a developer and financer of renewable energy and energy efficiency projects nationwide. So when I'm not in the office doing this, I direct our project development around the country. I work with sustainability and renewable energy groups in presenting community solar concepts and ideas, and work with our network of lenders to bring financing products to the table to help subscribers and as well as host sites finance solar and their subscriptions to community solar gardens. And that is our topic today. We're going to talk a little bit about community solar, what it is, its basic format, and what that opportunity might be for schools and an opportunity to perhaps get more projects up and operating using a community solar model at schools. Since we're in an educational environment, we'll do a little bit of a community solar 101 and just to get an idea and to bring everybody up to speed so we're all on the same page. Community solar is a form of solar projects, of course. It starts with a developer like Community Green Energy, who basically will work with host sites. They could be landowners, they could be physical entities, commercial buildings, et cetera, and so forth. And what we're looking for is a good location to put a centralized solar array as best to the sun as possible and to be able to build and construct the project at the lowest cost possible. It has its own system meter, which is connected to the local utility. So all of the excess generation from that system meter and the central array goes out to the utility grid, who purchases that energy in the form of a bill credit that is given to participants who sign up as subscribers to the central solar array or the community solar garden. And they pay for it to the developer for the production or the kWh, the excess generation that that central array puts out. What's good about this, of course, is that it offers opportunities for many more to participate in solar, because 75% of them are really unable to put solar on their own business because of many things. There's a lot of renters out there. Many have good roofs, but they're poor orientation or they're shaded. And of course, solar is still a little, in many places, still a little bit more costly, or the cost of putting it on your own home or your own roof is prohibitive. So what does that mean in terms of solar and schools and community solar in schools? If you think about it, community solar, many of us think about them in states that have community solar laws like Massachusetts. They're typically on fringe areas of population centers because they are able to be 1 meg, 2 meg, 3 megawatts in size. And that draws the the solar developers in and solar operators to look at projects at scale. But are those the only good opportunities for community solar? In other words, many of those who are able to subscribe to a solar or a shared community solar farm into something that's remote from them. And although it's good and they can participate, it isn't what we would, even at Community Green Energy, consider really true community solar. So what about that? And that's why we look at schools. Schools are a great facility for and very suitable for a solar array. Studies have shown 50% of the schools in the United States today are suitable for some type of solar array. They typically have large roof space and unencumbered by a lot of equipment on top of the roof. So there's a good size there. And many of them are in open spaces where they have additional land. So the combination both of land and roof provide a great opportunity to host a community solar garden rather than simply participate in one in a remote facility. Another reason why schools would be a great opportunity for it is that solar energy is now becoming very, very competitive with grid energy prices. This is an interesting thing, and we'll ask you a few questions and test your knowledge here a little bit, but not a bad deal to have or to host or to have solar on your roof. As a matter of fact, the average across the country that a school saves by putting solar on their roof is $21,000, which is a very, very good amount considering budgets and budgetary constraints for most school districts and schools themselves. There are other benefits, including the electricity savings. And the electricity savings are immediate, of course, and then they grow as utility prices escalate. So you have the benefit of electricity savings for on-site solar. It's also a good way of meeting sustainability goals. Most municipalities have committees or actual departments for sustainability goals, and solar is obviously a great way to help meet those goals. Solar at schools presents another great opportunity for an educational experience. Think about it, you're actually putting a fully functioning renewable energy lab on site, and all of them typically have educational kiosks in the building that show dashboards and provide opportunities for a number of different learning sectors for schools. So it's a great opportunity to provide an on-site learning experience. With all this going for it, you might be amazed at the end of 2014, what percentage of all K through 12 schools in the US have solar installed. You might be shocked to see that actually only 3% of all schools in the United States at the end of 2014 had solar on site and were using solar to benefit their own programs. There's a lot of reasons for this, and one of the main ones, of course, is cost. And even though solar has come down dramatically in cost over the recent years, it still remains fairly expensive to opt into solar. Typically, the way that they have been financed are what we call through cost options. Things like loans, where you either have to come up with a down payment, or you have debt service, or you have leases, which also require a lease payment or debt service. And some of the traditional ways that have been done are bonds, and those are serviced also, and typically with savings and other cost concerns. But all of these methods require a cost. It might be one of the main reasons why still only 3% of schools have paid in solar. So what they really need to seek is the no-cost option. And there are some that do exist, and one of the traditional models, of course, is the power purchase agreement, which was a great way to do it. Simply having a third-party investor purchase the system and install it for you at no cost, and the only requirement or liability would be to purchase the energy, and that's typically at a lower cost. So again, day one savings. But PPAs, perfect as they are for a no-cost option, are still outside investor owned, and typically they require return on their investment that in many areas of the country, the revenue streams from them just don't give them to them. And a lot of times it's because the projects are smaller. Those investors are typically looking for the larger scale projects because all of them continue to take the same due diligence for them. So the smaller projects, and like they would be at schools or other facilities like that, are still struggling to find financing, even for a purchase agreement program. That's where community solar can come into the picture. Community solar, although it is a type of solar project, really is another way of providing things for the project. Subscribers in early community solar gardens that have existed over the years, many of the projects required upfront fees, and many still do. So if you were buying into a solar garden, you may be paying $1,000, $2,000, $7,000 to get into the program. But what that did is that it provides the solar garden operator and developer a way to finance the project. So actual subscribers are providing the long-term financing. And with 85% of the population in the US of people who would choose solar if they could, or are in favor of solar energy, that provides a lot of opportunity, and we've seen very good demand for residents and small businesses who would choose to be a part of a community solar garden. So this is another way that that you could provide an opportunity to advance solar, find more locations, and find more financing through a community solar model. This is an interesting statistic as well, that of all of the systems that are on schools, most of them are financed through a third party, 90%. And it still makes you wonder that if 90% can be financed by third parties, why are still only 3% of the schools participating in solar? Well, again, it's partly due to the size of the projects. And that's what we're trying to do here in terms of looking at community solar as another way of stimulating solar development, solar participation. Let's take a look at how it will work in Massachusetts as a hosted community solar project versus a remote solar garden that anyone could subscribe to. This is a model how it could work in Massachusetts. Instead of having it out on a shared solar farm on a 10 or 15 or 20 acre parcel, we use school buildings and school grounds to be the host of the solar garden. That solar system would have its own meter, so the net metering would be through the system meter and not through the school meter. There's an obvious difference there, but it still allows for excess generation, wherein if you were to put it behind your meter at a school, you may be able to consume all of the energy that is there. And it is one opportunity and one way that that a school can do solar energy through a traditional PPA. It benefits the school. In a traditional PPA, that benefits the school and it benefits the third-party investor. As a community solar project, transforming that traditional third-party PPA to a community solar project, here's what you're doing. You are not behind your meter. It'll be on a separate meter. So the host site will actually be a 10 to 15% owner of the solar garden. And as an incentive, many are offered a no-cost subscription to the solar garden. So it's as if as you are net metering and consuming that amount of power on your own side of the meter. Smaller system meter on this project or on this garden does is provides the net excess generation that the 85 to 90% of residents can purchase. So what you're doing is creating an opportunity to host the solar garden in a real local community environment at a school facility that has tremendous community appeal, which should generate a lot of interest with local residents and small businesses. So what we're doing in this kind of a concept using a solar model is to have the school benefit as the host site in the same way as if it were a net metered project. In a net metered project, you would be receiving maybe a 10% reduction in your energy bill, but consuming it all. But as owner of a 10 or 15% of the solar garden, you're actually benefiting the same way without even consuming any of the energy as a participant in the garden. So this is the model that would provide the opportunity to get that percentage of 75 in our community who don't be able to bring a community project really into the local community, where studies have shown that if you host and are able to own a facility like this that is predominantly subscribed locally, it's 5 times the benefit of doing something on a remote site with fewer possibilities of local residents to be able to participate in a garden. Community solar gardens at schools and inside your own communities provide a number of things that enhance the community relationship. Community virtual solar gardens at schools as hosts provides the same savings on electricity, maybe even more depending on the value of the credit that you will receive on your bill as kind of like a payment in kind for a site lease. You're really leasing your roof space or ground space in return for a 10 to 15% ownership, which you will be getting bill credits on your own electricity. So the school saves money. The local area taxpayers get more out of their tax base or tax payments to the school. You're saving money for the school, which makes your taxpayer dollars go further. Keeping and saving money in your own local area economy is a big bonus. If you understand the concept of the local multiplier effect, you find money in your community and you spend 50 or 75% of that new money, and it exponentially grows in additional commercial transactions. So it's an economic development project. Again, with your commitment and to sustainability, this is a true sign of it. You show green and you go green. It's a great way to engage your community. As we said, as I mentioned, schools are a great central location for community effort, and this could be one of the best uses of that community you can do. What this also doing is extending benefits not just between you as a host site under a traditional PPA and an investor, but now it becomes a project that everyone in the community has an opportunity to participate in and save money on their own electric bill. And as I mentioned before, this is a great educational tool. I mean, it's mathematics, it's science, it's economics. All of those things can be detailed in a learning center that can be located right in the school, directly connected to that solar garden. Those will also be an educational tool for any of the participants as well. They will have opportunities to be online, to log into their community solar garden and see the benefits that are created both for themselves, as an individual, and the community benefits regarding environmental impacts. It really, in a nutshell, is an opportunity to provide schools as well as other municipal locations the opportunity to find a way to finance a solar project that provides maximum economic benefit throughout the community. And that then concludes the presentation of community solar and its role perhaps in schools and advancing solar. So what we would like to now is open up the microphones. I'd be happy to field any questions regarding the presentation. Look on the Community Green Energy website has links to community solar gardens that we are currently involved in, and something that perhaps will give you a better idea of what the opportunities are for you in your location. Question that popped up here is, here's the question: do you have any idea how many schools in Massachusetts have solar? Actually, I do. From statistics, there's 1,800 schools in Massachusetts. There's approximately 180 schools in Massachusetts that have solar, which is great, but it equals only about 1%. So Massachusetts happens to be a little bit below the national average, or the total of 3% of all schools. So there's room for improvement, and I think there's an opportunity here to grow solar in school districts and at school sites. This question here regarding some things that are going on in Massachusetts right now. Here's a question. We're in National Grid spent, and the net metering cap, of course, has been achieved for now. Is there anything we can do now, or do we have to wait for new cap room? Good question. In National Grid, the cap is filled both for the municipal or public cap as well as the private cap. I know that at the moment, there's the last article that I had read that was that the legislature was going to take up cap issue yet this year. At least they were going to try to do it before they recess later in November, so they don't have a lot of time. They're going to do that in lieu of an omnibus energy bill, where they're trying to do all of that, which probably would not have gotten done. But anyway, there is a possibility, and there are ways. As a matter of fact, in Massachusetts, we've proposed, Community Green Energy ourselves have proposed a way to do it just using the traditional third-party PPA model. I mean, we can still construct solar on a school roof, and we can put it behind the school's meter and size it properly that you would put little, if any, excess generation out onto the grid in any given month. What we would do in our own model of community solar, not the standardized version that we saw in the earlier slide, we typically mimic the standard. In other words, what we can do is PPA model with an individual school. The price that the school would pay then for the energy to CGE is then distributed to Solar Garden subscribers. We would still go sell panel subscriptions to Solar Garden subscribers, and what they're really doing is buying the production value. So they're buying the revenue stream, and the revenue stream will be paid to their, according to their percentage of ownership. So we mimic exactly what it would be if the utility was doing on-bill crediting under state law. We just simply do it in a cash version that pays their electric bill. So they get the same kind of benefit. Under that program, there's also SREC revenue that provides an additional benefit for subscribers in a non-state law environment program like our community virtual solar garden model. So there is a way, and it's a way that you do not have to wait for the ability to do net metering, virtual net metering, in order to manage what would be the standardized version of it. Quick question here. Can you explain what you mean by 10 to 15% free power to a host site in our Massachusetts community solar example? What we're looking at is schools that we've looked at and designed some systems in Massachusetts. Typically, the school can consume all of the energy. So in the standardized solar, the community solar model, there is no excess generation that subscribers can purchase those credits. There aren't any. We kind of blend our model where we don't put it behind the school's meter. We put a separate system meter on. So the school then becomes a subscriber. But in our model, we are not going to charge school for that subscription. So if you're going to get a credit, if the excess generation credits are valued at 11.5 cents, therefore it creates the opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to have excess generation, because the solar array secondary service meter will consume little energy for the inverters and some maintenance equipment that would be there. So most of the energy then generated will be excess energy. We thank you again for joining us. We hope you gained a few insights into community solar and solar in general, and hope that this presents another opportunity for you to consider solar in your school. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.